How do we get to the castle, Kitty? Can you show us?
What did you find, Mairin?
I think some medieval games. This one might be called Coils. Let's see. Well, it's good to know I still suck at games.
Tic-tac-toe. Bowling. Tell us about the castle.
We've been to a lot of castles, and this one is really impressive. I mean, it's in such good shape, you can really imagine people living here hundreds of years ago. It was built in the early 15th century by the Preston family. So we're actually down in the wine cellar and the cold stores of Craigmillar Castle, which is pretty cool, but they even had a wine cellar back then. And there's a spiral staircase that goes right up to the family rooms where they dined above, so it was pretty easy access for them to get food, to wine and dine their guests. They were obviously pretty prestigious members of society. They were lawyers and writers, and so they entertained a lot. Okay, so we're in the drawing room of Craigmillar Castle, and when it was originally built in the 1400s, this would have been a great hall, but it was occupied for over like 250 years by different families, and by the time the Gilmores moved in the 1600s, the large halls were out of favor, and so they demolished it and made a series of smaller, cozier rooms. So this is the fireplace and the family scroll, and their shields hung above. Scrolls, it was in Gaelic, but it roughly translated to, you can't do everything with the pen, but it is useful. So, fun fact. So this is what a 15th century kitchen would look like. This would have been the stone hearth, and there would have been meat on the spit and some cauldrons filled with cereal and rice and like boiled chicken and eggs. And then over here is a small oven where they baked bread. And we are right next to the Great Hall, where in the 1400s, apparently the Lord would entertain and serve food for up to 70 people 2 times a day. So we're at the top of the tower house at Craigmillar Castle, and you can see way off in the distance is Edinburgh. You can see Edinburgh Castle and the Royal Mile going down to Holyrood Palace. And in the mid-16th century, Mary Queen of Scots used to come and stay here to hunt and ride. You can actually also see out to the Firth of Forth, which goes out to the North Sea. So we just spent about an hour exploring Craigmillar Castle. It's about a league's walk outside of Edinburgh, which means it can be walked in about an hour. And despite only being that far out of Edinburgh, we only ran into 2 other couples while we were here, whereas Edinburgh is just jam-packed full of tourists. So highly recommended to come here because I think it's the coolest castle that we've ever walked around. And there are lots of bits and bobs about history, a lot of interesting facts about Mary Queen of Scots who stayed here. Apparently the Craigmillar plan was drummed up by her supporters in 1566 and eventually led to the murder of her husband. That actually led to her downfall and eventual execution. But, it's still an interesting part of history. But yeah, you can walk all through the tower house, up all around the turrets, and just really envision how life would have been here in the 15th and 16th centuries. So, really cool. All right, and off to Edinburgh we go. And off. Whoa, bird.
Bird scared you.